The Texans, let's circle back to them because on the same day they traded Brandon Cooks, Chris, they signed Laremy Tunsil to a 3-year, $75 million extension, $25 million per year. Resets the tackle market, $50 million guaranteed at signing. Again, let's wait for the real numbers just to be sure that it really is what it's being characterized as, because we've seen it too many times to even remember in the past week or so. But good for Tunsil to get the deal done. He does represent himself. And look, I'm fine with a player representing himself if he gets what he wants. The concern is stubbornly insisting on representing yourself when you prove over and over again that you as an agent can't get a deal done. We're not saying it's across the board bad for players to represent themselves. We're saying in certain circumstances it is proven to be a bad idea, as it is with Lamar Jackson. Laremy Tunsil has done multiple deals on his own, if he's really doing the deals on his own. I thought it was amazing, Chris, that this guy, St. Omni,
right,
who was the target of a memo that the league sent to every team last year when Roquan Smith was trying to do a deal with the Bears, and St. Omni apparently was contacting teams on his behalf to try to get them to trade for the guy, trying to induce tampering to get Roquan Smith out of the Chicago market. The league sends out the memo saying, don't deal with this guy. And he's on the record disclosing the deal to Ian Rappaport, who works for NFL Media, which is owned and operated by the NFL. I pointed out yesterday it's the ultimate middle finger to the league by St. Omni. So do we really think he didn't help Laremy Tunsil negotiate this deal? Do we really think Tunsil truly and completely did it on his own? And again, that's fine, but it pisses off the agents. They're like, wait a minute, we're paying all this money for dues. We have to go to the mandatory meeting every year. We have to have mandatory liability insurance, malpractice insurance. We have to do all these things so we can represent players.
Right.
And guys are going to be able to kind of secretly represent players without having to do any of this. I can understand why they're upset.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that too. And, good for Laremy Tunsil. Yeah, we're never against, we're against Lamar, like you talked about. Laremy Tunsil, offensive line contract.
We're against him. We're against him representing himself because he's proven over the last 2 years that he can't get it done.
Exactly right.
We are in favor of players getting every penny they can from the oligarchs when they can, how they can. And if you can do it on your own, that's great. But just because some guys do it on their own doesn't mean they all should do it on their own. And Lamar Jackson is the shining example of the guy who should not be doing it on his own. That's how we're against him. We're against Lamar, the agent. We're pro-Lamar Jackson, the player. We're anti-Lamar Jackson, the agent.
Yeah, that's well said. Definitely. And we want to see Lamar get his money. Good for Laremy Tunsil. I mean, Laremy Tunsil is, yes, he's the best pass-protecting left tackle in the NFL. So that's why he gets paid that. And I would think, Mike, this contract is pretty straightforward and is what it is. Oh, hey, you're the best pass-protecting left tackle in football. The guy before you is making $23 million a year. Okay, you're a little bit better than he is, and you're younger. Here you go. Here's the new market price. So not a shocking number as far as I think where that position is going. Make that guy feel happy as, again, going back to the conversation we just talked about. He's got a big – not only is he a left tackle in the NFL, it's a big job because we all think and know, I think we all know, the Texans are getting a quarterback in number 2. So let's have that guy there to protect your new quarterback and make him feel nice and comfortable. And if you got to pay an extra $1 million a year or so for it, so what? So good for Laremy Tunsil.
Think of all the cornerstone players who have left the Texans in recent years. Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, Brandon Cooks more recently.
DeAndre Hopkins.
They have nothing left. They have Laremy Tunsil. Yeah, they have Laremy Tunsil. And he's been the guy who's been the constant. Remember that big trade? Bill O'Brien pulled off that huge trade for Laremy Tunsil without signing him to a long-term deal. And that there was several deals like that done at the time. You do the trade, you worry about the contract later. No, you do the contract on the way through the door because the guy wants out and he wants a new contract. You give up your leverage in your negotiations by not getting the deal done on the way in. But Tunsil has played it well. He's done very well for himself. And his deal's not nearly as complicated as trying to negotiate the life of a franchise-tagged player who's trying to get teams interested in him, trying to get somebody to craft an offer sheet. hopefully it works out for Lamar the way it's worked out for Laremy Tunsil, and good for Laremy Tunsil finding a way to work it out. However, to the extent that this St. Omni is involved in the representation. And here's how it works, Chris. And it would be very easy for the NFL to investigate this, I believe, if the NFL chooses to do it, and I've asked them if they're going to. Because, again, when has there ever been a memo sent by the league to all teams specifically naming a guy saying, don't negotiate with this person. Yeah. He's not a certified agent.
Right.
What happens is emails are sent through a dummy account set up supposedly as the player.
Yeah.
And it's just the non-agent who's the one receiving, reading, and responding to the emails and doing the negotiation. And it's the player, but it's not the player. It's the non-agent who's doing it.
Right.
And I heard a story over the weekend. One of the reasons did I sign an NDA on this? One of the reasons, I'm kidding, that the Bears knew that something was up, they got one of the emails from Roquan Smith while he was on the practice field.
Oh, right.
Last year.
Yes.
That was when the Bears kind of thought, this may not be Roquan Smith who's communicating with us.
Right.
So, and again, it's the rule, and the NFL is apparently aware of it, as evidenced by the memo. They're either going to enforce it or they're going to look the other way. And I've sent the email to the league yesterday, and I just did the follow-up while we've been talking about it, because that's how they deal with me when they don't want to answer my question. They just ignore it and think I'll forget about it. And you know what? It works. It does. I tend to forget that I've sent it, so I got to remember to send it again. So I've remembered to send it again. Usually the third time's a charm. Usually the third time I either get a real answer or I get a no comment, but I at least get something. And they still do that. I guess because it works, because I do forget. So I just want to get to the bottom of this, because when the guy announces it, when the guy who is persona non grata is the one who's announcing the deal, shouldn't you at least, if you're the league, say, well, this is curious. Is there any evidence potentially that the Texans negotiated with St. Omni and not Laremy Tunsil? So we'll see if they look into it.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, it's not right to the rest of the agents, like you talked about. You're skirting the rules if that's the case, and definitely looks a little weird if he's the one talking to NFL media, the insiders who put all this stuff out, and he's giving contract details when he's not a certified. I mean, if I was a certified NFL agent, I'd be pissed off too right now with that development.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, and it's a big hassle to have that certification. And if people are going to do it without the certification, I mean, when I practiced law, one of the worst things anyone could do was practice law without a license, because of all the things you have to do to get your license and stay in good standing. If somebody's going to pretend to be a lawyer and they're not, it's disrespectful to the people who are checking all the boxes and doing all the right things. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.